Okay, so the Bible is a very fascinating book. Its first verse, in the beginning, God created heavens and the earth, tells us the theme of the book. But not only does it tell us the theme of the book, it also gives us a very special emphasis. I want to highlight to you the emphasis in the book of Genesis as well. Something that you may be well aware of, but maybe have not really quite seen it that way. So now let's look at the book's emphasis. Okay, just to make sure you are still with me after your lovely dinner, just to check, how many chapters are there in Genesis? How many? 50, good. Okay, 50 chapters. How many chapters deal with the world as a whole? How many? Chapters 1 to what? Very good, chapters 1 to 11. So you notice that chapter 1 to 11 deals with the world as a whole, or what we call primeval history. Okay? In those short 11 chapters, you read about creation, you read about the fall into sin, you read about Cain and Abel, you read about, you had some glimpses into those civilizations that Cain built. Then you read about Enoch, who walked with God and was not. And then very quickly you read about Noah and the flood. And after the flood you read about the Tower of Babel and wondered how they built those towers, how it looked like. And then of course today we love to wonder about dinosaurs and when exactly did they live, you know. Did Noah walk with dinosaurs, you know? Was he in the real Jurassic Park? You know, not that there is a Jurassic Age. And we wonder about all this, and all that is contained in a short 11 chapters. Now, beginning with chapter 12 to 50, what does the Bible talk about? What does the Bible talk about? I'm sure you know, some of you do. Talks about patriarch. Let's name them, shall we? The word patriarch is a bit long, so let's name them to make it clearer what I'm talking about. Who is the first man the Bible goes into detail about? Abraham. After that, Isaac, and then Jacob, and then Joseph. Yes, the robe of many colors. Very, very popular. And all that are different characters, right? We call that the patriarchal history. Now, do you notice with me how lopsided it seems the Old Testament book of Genesis is? Things that we want to know about. Actually, in our modern day and age, we spend tons of money. Send people up the moon, down into the sea, across the lands to find out. You know, you make a livelihood out of being a scientist, a geologist, an archaeologist. You know, you pay money to watch Indiana Jones, you know, and you wish, you know, you were an archaeologist like him, you know, so exciting, such an exciting life, so on and so forth. You know, everything our lives revolves about, the Bible only spanned 11 chapters on it. And then it spanned the rest of the Bible on Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. You know, the message that God is sending us is that the Bible is intended to be personal. The message of Genesis, like the message of God's Word, is not about things. It's not about this rock, how old is it? God is not that interested. He knows. But it doesn't matter if you did it correctly. Today, like, wow, I can dig this rock. Whoa, you know, great discovery, you know, and then you win a prize, you know. But God is saying, your life is what matters to me. Do you notice, for instance, that if you are growing in the Lord, what I mean by growing in the Lord, that means when you get interested in what God has to say about your life, and you begin to read the Bible, you begin to listen to sermons, you begin to get on the web and you hear Pastor Jason preach, you know, over and over again, until you're so familiar with his voice that I remember there was once a dear sister said that he's more familiar with Pastor Paul's voice than her own husband's. Because she spends so much time listening to God's word taught. And that's what happens when you get excited about God and His word. You will find you are more familiar sometimes with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph than your neighbor. Right? You may not even know where your neighbor came from, I can't remember, what is it, Chua Chu Kang or is it Lim Chu Kang? Where did she say last time? Don't know. But Abraham, he came up, and we've never even been there before, and we live in Singapore. Why is that so? Because what God says about these lives, God is saying about our lives. He's interested not in things. His concern in Genesis, in the whole Bible, is with you and with me. I thank God for the emphasis of the Bible. Now, let's look also, not only the chapter distribution, I call this the chapter distribution. Okay, now let's look at the topical distribution of the book of Genesis. By topical, I mean, what does the Bible talk about? What are the various topics? Can you all see? Is it? Okay, I apologize if the handwriting looks a bit hard to read. But wait till you read Pastor Jason's handwriting. Doctor's handwriting is infamous. Okay, let's look at the topical distribution. Let's first look at events. Now, there are 4 key events in the Bible recorded for us in Genesis. Can anyone name me which are the 4 key events, beginning with Genesis 1, that concerns our world? Very good, creation. What's the second? Before the flood? Very good, the fall. Okay, all these events affects our life, right? The creation, the fall, and then just someone mentioned just now the flood. Okay, the flood is a worldwide event. Let no one fool you that it's a local flood, because if it's a local flood, Noah wouldn't have to build an ark. He just have to run to the tallest mountain and hide there. Okay, it is a worldwide event. The Bible tells us very clearly. And then the last event. Very good, the Tower of Babel. We call it the dispersion. Okay. The creation explained how we came into the world. The fall explained how come, although we know how to do good, yet we keep on doing wrong. The problem of evil. The flood changed the entire environment. Today we eat tuka, that's a pork leg. Today we eat roast duck, and things like that because of the flood. So don't know whether to be thankful or not. Then a lot of people are worried when they go back to heaven, will they have to really turn vegetarian? Because it was after the flood that God commanded that man will eat meat because the environment has changed and they need the sustenance that comes from meat. And so it changes our whole world. Peter called this world we live in the new world after the flood. The dispersion created all the nationalities that we know today. Now, besides the key events, there are also characters in the Bible. And there are 6 key characters. Beginning at creation, who do we have? Adam. And then at the flood we have Noah. And just now we mentioned Abraham. Right? Abraham. We have Isaac. And we have Jacob. And we have Joseph. Now, once again, if you look at the distribution of the topics, you'll find that God deals briefly with the events that shape our world. But He deals at length with the key characters and their impact on our lives. And it's true that up to today, if you think about it, up to today, the things that affect our lives are caused by people.